Welcome back, everyone. Okay, let's get our hands dirty and make a quick game. So now that we've learned a little bit about game design, let's make a really small game. Now, just a word of caution here, this is not going to be a AAA game. I remember that I wanted to make a AAA game in my basement when I was a kid, and that never happened. And even, as I grew up and, exited college, I wanted to make a AAA game all by myself, and that also did not happen. So we're going to go ahead and make a whole bunch of small games. But we'll learn a lot about game design in the process. It's very important to go all the way from your game design document to release. And what I mean by that is that when you start to release, you actually learn a whole bunch, whereas if you didn't release. Is you can actually make a game design document and give it to a bunch of programmers and artists, and out would come a game. There's no set length, but the more description about your game, the better it is. Have you ever played that game where someone would draw something on a piece of paper and try to describe it to you, and in a class of, let's say, 30 people, everyone would draw something different? Well, the same concept applies. You want to make sure that you're very descriptive with what you do when it comes to game design. The best GDDs are descriptive enough so that someone else can do the work and have the product be amazing. So again, this is actually a job in the design industry, believe it or not, is someone to actually physically write a game design document and hand it off to all the programmers and artists, and they will go ahead and make the game. Welcome back. Let's talk a little bit about game scope. So first of all, the scope of the game is everything that you expect to happen within the game. This includes all the rules, the programming, the art, the functions, everything. Now, when you're working by yourself, and I assume that if you're taking this course, you're probably going to work by yourself or with a small team of maybe 2 to 5 people, maybe even 10 people. But the smaller the team, the smaller you can go outside your scope. So when the scope is exceeded, this is the number one reason why games fail. And the reason for this is that it's so easy to add on. It's like, oh, let's do this, and then let's do this. Well, if you keep on doing that in your production, you will end up failing. Your game will end up failing and not get released. And if it doesn't get released, people can't play it. So when it comes to game scope, and you want to make sure that when you start production, everything has been thought of before you've actually gone ahead and started. And it's always important to be realistic. What should a basic game design document have? Well, first of all, it should have a set of features of what you want in the game. The second thing is the necessary programming requirements. You need to think of everything that needs to be programmed within the game. So if you have a game that's a simple first-person shooter, some programming elements would be, collisions, walking, and, firing. You would need to think of everything that you would need as a programmer and what you would need to do as a programmer to get things up and out the door. All of the necessary art assets. So if you plan to make, let's say, a whole game, you want to make sure that you know every single art asset that you need. So let's say if you were to give it to an artist, they can just go ahead and do the work, and you could do the programming, and then all of a sudden a game would come out. And the last thing you need is the time to complete each part of the production and to complete each asset. So, for example, let's say if you need 10 art assets, and they'll take roughly 2 hours to do each. You need to know how long everything is going to take. And of course this comes with experience. Welcome back, everyone. Let's create a simple and basic game design document. So as you can see in this slide here, I have 3 bold areas. So I have the game idea, the programming, and the art assets. Now I want you to go ahead and create something like that after this tutorial as well. But let's just take a look at this game idea. So the game idea is to click the gold star to increase points. That's all it is. Points go up every time you click a gold star and go down every time you click a red star. A very, very simple game. Let's talk about the programming. We need to make the stars rotate. Well, we don't need to, but it actually looks kind of cool. Rotation is the number one programming asset you can add to anything to make it look a little bit cooler. Once clicked, the star is destroyed and moved to another location. Alright, and after that, have the stars get destroyed and respawned after 10 seconds. Have a timer at the top of the screen. So those are all the programming assets we need. And the art assets we need is the gold star and the red star. Welcome back. One thing that you should do is always analyze your game design documents. Even if you're on a plane and you have nothing to do for a couple hours and you make a game design document, come back to it to see what ends up happening. So this game is really simple. We will complete it. We can also release this onto many different platforms if you really wanted to, because it's Stencyl, and you can do that. If you were to do this with other engines, you might actually have to code this game 3 or 4 times over. And all of these steps are important to think about when you're releasing games. So, is the game, basically what you need to know whether you're going to complete your game. Because if you don't complete your game, people can't play it. And if people can't play it, then people won't enjoy it. And if people won't enjoy it, then ultimately you won't make any money from it. So you have to be able to complete your game. And I always suggest making simple games versus really complex games. Okay? And with Stencyl, you can release it to as many platforms as you want.